Hi, Tim from Fair Play Now, and I've got an absolutely crazy one for you today. I've been away for a few days, or not doing any videos, but I've had to come back just for this nonsense, and it's basically the Chinese Aviation Authority have advised that all their cabin crews on any Chinese airlines should be wearing nappies, not face nappies, but actual nappies. I think you can get adult versions as well as baby versions of those. And the whole idea is that the cabin crew shouldn't be going into the toilets during flights, because they reckon that's the highest concentration of the old virus in there. So they've got to relieve themselves into these nappies as they're doing their jobs. If they need to relieve themselves during the flight, which if they're on about a 13-hour flight somewhere, that chances are they probably will. I mean, is there anything more ridiculous? I mean, why can't they just have, if they're so worried about it, maybe have one of the toilets for just crew only, or just make sure the toilets are cleaned kind of every 5 minutes, or make sure that the cabin crew wash their hands and everything else that they need to thoroughly. I'm sure the toilets are probably sort of one of the least COVID infected places on a plane. But there you go, it's just one of these ridiculous things. Now, I actually heard this story from a guy called Carl Vernon. I think I've mentioned him before in these videos, but he actually goes into it in a little bit more depth, and he talks about a kind of psychology, and his videos are, a lot of them are about psychology, and I'm not sure if he's actually a trained psychologist or if he's just kind of an amateur psychologist, into the subject. What he's saying is that all these ridiculous measures is basically these narcissists in power just seeing how much they can take the piss, and how much ordinary people buy it, how much ordinary people will comply with their ever increasing demands. And just because they get off on this kind of thing, just seeing how much control they can exert. But he kind of describes it a lot better than I can, and he goes into the psychology behind it. So I'll put a link to the video below. It's well worth a watch, well worth subscribing to him actually as well, because he does go into the whole psychology thing. I think he reckons, and I reckon the same thing, that this whole COVID thing is basically psychological warfare on the people by those in authority. And I don't know much about psychology. I've got a little bit of an amateur interest in it, but one thing I do recognise from what I've kind of learnt about psychology in the past is something called the power of three. If you put sort of three statements together, it has a very powerful psychological effect on people. It kind of gets them to remember what they're saying, to obey what the authorities are saying. And what are on those podiums that you see Boris Johnson and all the rest of them standing behind? It's the stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives, or whatever the latest one is now. That's a classic power of three for you in action there. So it's definitely a lot of psychological trickery going on. And Carl Vernon, in this video that I'll link to below, is actually saying that these ridiculous new measures, ever increasing new measures, are another part of the psychological warfare. I won't go into it too much. I'll let him describe it to you. It's basically all about them seeing how much control they can get over you and how much they can get away with. But I thought I'd just share this crazy story, and how people aren't starting to see through all this nonsense now beginning to call it out for what it is, and just starting to ignore the government and all these authorities and the media. But they just don't seem to be doing it. They just seem to be complying and complying and complying. But anyway, as I say, link to the Carl Vernon video below. I'll leave it there for today. So it's Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.